Okay, so what I thought I'd do just this morning, and if you just in the mood to listen, hopefully, there's a couple of things I've written and a couple of things I wanted to read out, and I'll do that, and we can use those as a sort of meditation. If we get time to do a meditation after we've had this and opened up to a bit of discussion, we can do that as well. But don't forget, and I've mentioned this before, just being able to listen and just the process of listening is something that you can really, it's a skill that you can develop. So if you find, say I'm talking and you find yourself drifting off, then one of the skills you can develop is just come back. Don't beat yourself up. Don't do anything. Don't block it out. But just try and listen. And even if, say, I might read out 2 pages, and there might only be one line that you hear that is relevant or pertinent or rings true with your own soul, then that's incredible. You know, just take whatever you can. Be like a sieve. Take what's important to you, what's needed for you, and let go of the rest. And that's a really good practice to be able to get good at in your life. So then using that, and most of you, I'm sure, and I just want to bring this into context. So I'm just going to do 3 things, and I don't know if we'll get through all 3 things, is just talk a little bit about, not that I'm an advocate for or saying that you have to do it or anything, but some of you will be aware of the 12 steps of AA and also the drug version of AA. I just wanted to pull out a couple of those and just mention those in the context of mindfulness, and then read out a meditation. In actual fact, it's something I wrote a while ago, and I've read out before in the class, and it's called Meditation with God. And it's I just found it again by accident this morning, and I just thought, wow, that's really interesting, because there's a link there with the 12 steps. And then if we get time and you guys haven't revolted and bolted out the door, I will read out what I wrote in regards to, well, what is mindfulness, when I was asked to facilitate these programs a few years ago. And that's really interesting. It's like a little stimulus to get you to think about things. And also what I was hoping for, if we get through all this, is to start, because maybe today it's heavily weighted towards me talking and reading things out. But why these classes hopefully are so fun and enjoyable and engaging is because I like to put it back onto you guys and girls. And so you can contribute, you can partner up, and I'll show you something that, and if we get time for this, if we don't get time for this, we can do it next week when I come in there. But start getting you, and I thought you could team up, because there's a few of you there now. There's at least 12 of you, and apparently there's going to be 18 of you come there in Freeman House, which might not sound like a lot, but it's a lot of people to have in a class at one time. So brace yourself, because what I'm going to ask you to do is partner up. That's right. And you can choose your own partners, and then do a little presentation on an aspect of mindfulness. And that presentation is not based on research or looking things up, but it's based on you and the person you're teaming up with to think about and nut out and dive deep into that aspect of mindfulness, and then present what that means to you. So it's a way of engaging in the class yourself and speaking, but also it's a way of actually, you might say, almost being forced to look at things in a deeper way. And that's a good segue and a good lead in to the couple of these 12 steps from AA that I just wanted to talk about. So here they are. By the way, does anyone go to AA, or what's the drug version of AA called?
NA.
NA, thank you. N, yeah. Is that N for narcotics?
Yeah.
Right, thank you. All right, so there's 12 steps, and they're not necessarily applicable, obviously, to everyone, but here's a couple I've pulled out: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've pulled out 5 from the 12 steps. I'm not saying to ignore the others, but this is just something that relates a little bit to what we're about to talk about here in this class. So the first step in AA goes like this: we admitted we were powerless over alcohol/drugs, that our lives had become unmanageable. I know all of you already know that, and that's why you're there. So that's the first one. The second one says, I came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Has anyone not heard that before? Great. The third one, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now, that was the segue I was talking about in getting us, you, me included, to do a presentation on certain aspects of mindfulness. That will help with that. Because the reason why that one is so important is because if you don't do that and you leave Freeman House, you're only leaving half-baked, half-cooked. You've only learned. What? What was that?
We got here half-baked.
I think you got here raw. But you're anyway. So that's an important thing, but that involves you. That definitely involves you. The fourth one was made a list of all persons we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. That's a personal, private thing, but it's a good thing to do. And the last one was continued. This is step number 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So that's number 10. So there's a lot in there. It's only the first one obviously addresses that you've made the effort to actually come in. The others are the work that you do while you're here. Don't think for a second that you're going to have a lot of time to do that work when you leave here. You won't. You're going to be hit the ground running as soon as you leave Freeman House. So here is an opportunity while you're here to learn as much as you can and develop some skills for yourself and about yourself. Right. So in those 12 steps, there is a lot of mention or some mention of God or a power greater than us, right? I think we all understand that. So I'm going to read out this thing called Meditation with God. So I'm not saying that I have a direct line to God. Well, maybe I do, but I don't. It's not a phone. So here's just something you can have a listen to and think about, and perhaps why have I even done this? It's so that there's an introduction so that you can even, how can I say, you can even entertain the possibility that such a thing may exist. Because in the umbrella of religion and all the experiences you may have had in your life, you have come to develop some concept, some construct, some idea, or maybe even a repulsion for the word God or what that means. So hopefully I've written this down really from my own experience. So have a listen up and see how we go. So here we go. This is called meditation with God. So first of all, it's written in little points. So other names for God: divine spark, life force, nature, universe, the divine. Being close to the divine, we are touched by vastness and the infinite. God is what remains after you have been rendered humble. God is a relationship. You don't have to define God to have a relationship with God. I can't define my cat, but we now have a deep, affectionate, and communicative interaction. I don't mean to put God in the same basket as my cat, but I was making a point there about communicating. We can experience the divine via the vessel of our consciousness. Our consciousness starts to get a whiff of God during the practice of going within, also called meditation. In the simple practice of being aware of our breath, we rub up against the divine. And like a piece of iron that rubs up against a magnet, we slowly take on the attributes of the divine. What was that?
I'm just going to doctors.
Sure. We know God so we can trust God. Know God so we can trust God versus belief. It's a difference between knowing and believing. We are created in God's image, meaning we contain a divine spark that actually defines our humanity, making us human and kind. However, we also create God in our image, projecting our attributes of being judgmental, punishing, revengeful, and filled with limitations. Example, a male with white beard sitting above the clouds waiting for us to screw up. That's us projecting what we think God is sometimes. The divine is something that can't be described, but rather to seek out and get to know. And that in the knowing, an experience of life is provided that transcends mundane mediocrity. There's so much in each one of these sentences. It's carefully crafted. God is who you thank when you feel appreciation in prayer. God can be entered into dialogue with in prayer. God can be asked to transform us and help us learn. Only one drop of experience of the divine can truly transform us. It only needs one drop of experience, and you are transformed in that moment. God is that higher power who we pray to, or at least acknowledge when we have been possessed by addiction. And I'll read something else out over the next few weeks in regards to that depth of possession. God is everywhere, within the fabric of the entire universe, and God is within us. That's it. Any feedback?
Not a huge fan of the J word.
I think most people in here would be atheist or agnostic.
Okay, so that's absolute. Who said that, by the way? Most people. Who said that?
Jesse, but I don't know. Quiz or anything.
What was that?
But you know, I'm just saying that I don't know.
Right.
We'd have to take.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. It doesn't have to be. All right. So here's the thing. There's many aspects to mindfulness, but one of them is being trying to become precise in your speech. So when you say something like that, Jess, what does it mean to be agnostic or atheist? What does it mean to you?
I think it's a disbelief in God, a criticism, right?
Okay. So let me just put it to you, and this is just to get us thinking. I'm not saying you have to believe in God or not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a preacher. I'm not here saying that. But I'm just, from a mindfulness perspective and being precise in our speech, it takes an acknowledgement of something to disbelieve it. So if you disbelieve God, you must have some idea of what God is.
Well, how other people describe it, sure.
The way other people describe it? Okay, that's fair enough. So you don't, and I'm not trying to say what you're saying, you just correct me. Are you saying you don't agree with how other people can be describing God? Is that what you mean?
Sure, I think personally the definition of God that a lot of people use, I don't believe in.
Okay.
You know, same as like the tooth fairy.
Yeah, right.
People are theory of that, but
Yeah,
not
right.
necessarily because you're aware of it.
Okay, that's fine. So I like that. So did you resonate with anything that was read out then?
Not necessarily.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that input. I appreciate it. So does everyone else. Any other feedback? Any other agreements, disagreements? Something you'd like to say?
Yeah, this is Paul.
Paul, go ahead. Yep.
I do have a belief. I don't go to church or anything like that. My wife was born again Christian. We didn't really see eye to eye on some things, the concept of it. But my theory is like when life goes to shit and things happen, whether you're screaming to nature or the ether or to God or whatever, you are acknowledging that something does exist. Like, why the hell is this happening to me? You know, why does it always happen to me? And that's my theory is, and I don't mean to, I'm not disrespecting Jesse's view, is that, and I've said it to kids in my class and stuff like that, is that I don't necessarily believe that there's anyone who's truly an atheist or agnostic, because when life does go to shit, and it happens quite often, just in the off scream out, you know, so help me, whoever's out there, whatever's out there, if you're there, I don't necessarily believe in you, but from the off chance you're there, can you help me please? And well, that's just my opinion anyway.
Great. Thank you. That's great. Thank you for that. And I'm sure that many of us can relate to that as well. But if I could just add a little thing in there as well, that what happens if what is it where if you actually got into a stream of life where shit didn't always happen? Of course, sometimes things happen beyond your control. But what if something started to happen and your life truly started to transform and you really started to enjoy yourself and you didn't keep making the same mistakes over and over again? What sort of relationship would you then have with the divine or God? And is it, in other words, can you actually have a relationship that isn't just related to someone saving you because you've screwed up? Can you have a mutually beneficial I'm just putting this out there, sort of like with a partner or your children. You can have a mutually beneficial relationship where there's an interactive flow between you that you both enjoy and you both appreciate. I'm not saying that I know what God would enjoy or appreciate, but if there was a relationship that I could develop with God or the divine or the universe or the infinite, does it have to be predicated because I keep making mistakes and then I need to be saved and I need to be rescued? That's what I'm saying. concept is deeply embedded in religion.
Can be like in sport, yeah, like the old adage, you got to be gracious in defeat and gracious in victory, you know. So if you're going to believe just to get you out of the shit, then you got to believe if things are going good. That's just my opinion.
That's great. Thank you. So one of the things that we unravel in this class is the difference between belief and knowing. So here's another one. Can God actually, can a relationship with God be based on an experience of God, not just a belief in God? In other words, you know that something, and I don't mean just God, I mean something that you connect with inside of yourself that brings you joy. Can that be an experience, not just a belief that that exists? I'll do all the right things. I'll be good. I'll be a good boy. I'll do what I'm meant to do. I won't piss anyone off. And therefore, I will be close to God, or I will be close to feeling what I need to feel. So is that how it works? Or is it that perhaps that we can learn to actually connect with a part of ourselves? We can get to know ourselves, the part of ourselves that can experience, and we can connect with that experience consciously when we choose. Choice being the key word there. I'm just putting these things out there to get you to think about. And hopefully in the course of these classes, particularly when we do the meditation, and I remember, and I hope that Zoe remembers, but I remember when Zoe when she came the first time in the class and we did the meditation, don't mean to put you on the spot, Zoe, but it was quite palpable, the experience that you had in those few minutes of a meditation. And in some ways, I could sense that you were even surprised by that. And that I'm just saying that as an example of that possibility exists within all of us, that there is something within us that can truly surprise us and transform us, particularly if we've never really been introduced to it or practiced it or developed that skill. Feedback. Anyone want to say anything? Alex.
Just going back to what you're saying about, things about being good and, doing the right things and everything, and, going to make it close to God. I think those sort of things, you've got to be doing them for yourself. And that's just the person who you are. And I think that believing in God is not necessarily true of those things. I think it's within you and your makeup of yourself, of how you conduct yourself.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone want to respond to that or say anything about that? Or say something else? Jack?
I feel like religion, in a sense, good for some people because it gives them hope in something else, and something else to believe in rather than themselves. But I'm not particularly religious, but I don't really like how the steps in AA and NA, like the first step, like I can admit that I've made heaps of mistakes and that I bloody love drinking and using drugs, but I don't. But I don't think admitting that you're powerless over them is going to really do you any good. And I don't think turning the responsibility over to something other than yourself to get better is going to do you much good either.
Yeah.
And I think that those meetings probably serve so well to so many people because it gives people that have lost everything a sense of connection with each other, and it gives them sort of that human fundamental need in the form of a meeting, because a lot of people that stick around in those meetings don't have much else. But I do also like the idea that, well, I think that like consciousness, like, because no one can really explain it yet. There's so much not to be known about it. But I think just like being conscious that like it's like if anything, if there is a God, I think it's like not using that word, but it'd just be it'd be us. Like, and I think like the higher power would just be simply like being conscious, like, and how we connect with each other, and I don't know.
Well,
But
to be honest, Jack, I think you actually do know, because you've just articulated yourself extremely well. And I know other people in the group were actually listening to you, and you were virtually channeling what I was thinking. Now, I have to be very careful because I don't want to put down the 12 steps in any way. And as you said, there are people that take solace, and they, particularly in the fellowship and the community that the 12 steps provide. But I also myself, and this is just my view, was similar to yours in that if we're going to have a savior, someone who can save us from our own foibles, let's open to the possibility that it may be something within us, a part of us, or as you were saying, ourselves. So it's liberating to hear what you said, and it's worth all of us reflecting on that as well. And hopefully we'll touch upon some of those things that you mentioned during these classes. And thank you.
I think the same, that Jack was exactly right, because when they say it in AA, it's like to a God of your own understanding, and that can be yourself. Have faith in yourself, have faith in the people around you, your relationships, whether it be nature, whatever it is, whatever you believe in, that's your higher power, that's your God. So, and that's what the God means in that, or a group of drunks. That's what they say. The God in that is a group of drunks getting together, GOD, just sharing their experiences, having faith in each other, having faith in themselves.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. So,
thank you. That's great. One of the things, and I know that I've brought up the 12 steps and I know why we're here, but the core of the mindfulness class, in addition to the nutrition class that I facilitate, it's designed for human beings. It's not because these classes are not because you're an addict or you've got an addiction or you've had a problem with alcohol. That's obvious. But there's lessons within being mindful that have to do with you being a human being and being on this planet and being able to articulate yourself and move forward and thrive and enjoy this life. Nothing to do with any problems that you might have. So there is very powerful things here, and hopefully we'll get to develop some skills around that and understand more about ourselves. Because mindfulness, at the core of mindfulness, it is about, as Jack put it so well, is about being conscious. And it's so you need to be conscious to know yourself. And one of the definitions of mindfulness is, I'll just read this out, it says, keeping our consciousness alive to the present moment. Because that's the only place you exist. It's the present moment. You don't actually exist in the past, and you don't know what's coming up in the future. So keeping our consciousness alive to the present moment, a non-judgmental, non-reactive, open and curious approach to the present moment. It's almost like a scientist. And that becomes easier with practice and more joyful and engaging when we are in peace. So in other words, heartfulness, not just mindfulness, heartfulness, which talks more to an actual experience rather than...
That could be trademark.
What was that?
That could be your trademark,
Heartfulness.
heartfulness.
It's not. I didn't come up with that. I've chosen heart good actually as my trademark, and that's my website. And we'll be posting some of these recordings up on that site soon, by the way, so you can go back and refer to some of the things that we've talked about. But thanks for the idea there, Jack. All right. Anyone else? Any input? Here's your chance to say something before I read something else out. Great. Now, maybe we can just finish with this. This is a couple of pages. And what this is, like I said, I just wrote this out when I was asked to facilitate these classes. So it gives us something to think about. So I thought this is the last class, for the moment at least, where we're doing this online. After this, it'll be a lot more engaging because I'll be in there. So, but I thought it's appropriate just to give us some context and get you to think about some of the things that have to do with mindfulness. Would you? I'll open it to a democratic vote. Jesse was into democracy there. Would you like me just to read the whole thing through and then ask, or would you like me to stop every now and then and ask for any feedback?
I don't think Aaron cares.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we can, if you can, this is opening up, and it's called Lots to Explore. That's the sort of the theme. It's about mindfulness, and it's called Lots to Explore. So just relax, have a listen along, and if you think of something, if you've got a notepad, either write it down or hold that thought and ask me at the end. So here we go. So just ease into it and just think along. Often we hear a word, its meaning comes to us as an image or a concept or understanding. In this way, mindfulness implies something you practice or engage in or pay attention to, some care you exercise or meditation you practice. Implicit within the word mindfulness is care, meditation, or practice of some sort, thoughtfulness, and a way of acting that might promote well-being, both in the person enacting mindfulness as well as those nearby. Often, when you look at the parts that make up a word, its meaning often shifts from vague, low resolution to high resolution technicolor. Ness from mindfulness indicates some state like sadness, happiness, laziness, etc. So is mindfulness a state you want to find yourself in? And if so, is it random or by accident that this state befalls you? Or is some skill or effort required to get to this state and then maintain this state? Is being mindful enjoyable? Lots to explore. Interestingly, some practitioners of mindfulness meditation seek to empty the mind, quieten the mind, stop thoughts. Is it even possible to stop thoughts? If the mind is full of stuff you don't want, then what would you want to fill your mind with? Do you get to choose what your mind is full of? Is the mind the only tool you have to experience the full spectrum of human existence? Does being mindful involve the heart or the breath? Can the mind be mindful of itself? Can the mind transcend its own thoughts and merge with pure awareness and love? Are you more than just your thoughts? Can you be mindful of something within you other than your thoughts? And if so, what sort of transformation might this bring about? Lots to explore. Mindful is being careful, not careless. It's learning from our mistakes, remembering what will be the consequences of the action I am about to undertake. Being mindful is not about being a control freak, a tyrant, or a robot. Mindfulness is allowing the stream of consciousness that gives rise to rich images, poetic expressions, exquisitely subtle feelings and insights. Mindfulness is owning what exists and originates from within me, good or bad, light or dark, ugly or beautiful, terrifying or joyous. In the owning is a seed of positive transformation, lots to explore. Mindfulness is a respectful dialogue with yourself and with others. Bringing mindfulness into a conflict opens up a whole world of self-discovery and positive transformation. Mindfulness is acknowledging the quiet voice within. The voice that is mostly crushed, ignored, or bargained with. The voice that says, I want to be happy, feel good. I want to enjoy my life. I want to have it all. I want to love. I want to feel. I want to fly. I want to sing and sway and walk tall. I want to help. And I want what I do to matter, at least to me. I want my life to have meaning from now on. Mindfulness is getting a whiff of something incredible and then pursuing it. It doesn't even have a name other than it, yet it excites the mind and heart, and mindfulness fans the flame of passion. Mindfulness is admitting when something no longer works. It's worn out, tired, or lame. It is admitting when you are wrong and then moving on. It is the allowing of the annihilation of an old structure or way of being that no longer works, that is sick or poisoned, that needs to be broken open and burnt to ashes and allowed to resurrect in a new form that contains new potential. Lots to explore. Mindfulness fosters hope. Hope is the bridge between an unsavory place you might find yourself in and a small but distinct spark of light that heralds some potential, an indescribable feeling with flavors of wholeness, goodness, peace, and order. The most boring thing in the universe can be your own mind. Repetitive cycling, ruminating, and worrying about problems that often aren't even yours. Mindfulness is about becoming aware of other aspects of existence other than your own thoughts. Mindfulness is about realizing the limits of your mind, the tricks of the mind, the journeys it can take you on and utterly exhaust you and then dump you. The monkey mind. Mindfulness is about knowing where to go with your attention to get rest from your thoughts. It's knowing what to do with your mind while you are resting. Mindfulness is knowing that the mind is like a genie and that once the lamp is rubbed and the genie gets out, the genie wants to be kept busy 24/7. Being mindfulness of what you feed your mind. Be the genius that feeds the genie nourishing food so that in return you are blessed with a healthy mindfulness mind. Mindfulness beckons you to awaken. O tired one, awaken to what is already there, what already exists. The gifts of life are waiting to be unwrapped. Mindfulness leads you to gratitude, not suffering. It leads you to appreciation, not greed. The vessel that is made with mindfulness contains joy, not sadness. And the room of mindfulness is filled with light, not madness. Lots to explore. There you go. Thank you for listening.